Hello everyone, Artemu the Violet Wizard here, and today we're continuing The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past Randomizer. Last time we managed to get a lot of progress, managing to knock out all of the dungeons that we can do in the Light World, thanks to us getting a lot of good items in the last session. So we managed to collect everything that we need from the Light World dungeons, for the most part, and made some good progress in clearing out some of the Dark World stuff too. So I am very happy with the amount of progress we made here. And depending on how things go, we should be knocking out at least 2 more dungeons in this session, which will put us one step closer to finishing this game. So yeah, with all that said, there's a few things I want to take care of first. Namely, want to head back to the into the Lost Woods to see what we can get from the Master Sword pedestal now that we have all of the pendants. But there is also something else that we'll be able to grab too, and I want to make sure that we are able to take care of that. So now that we have access to our boots, there is something we should be able to grab over in the desert. So I want to quickly take care of this before we continue with the rest of this run. So yeah, things are going pretty good here. So may I notice from our count from our inventory up at the top of the screen, we're short a couple rupees and we're up a couple of arrow upgrades. So yeah, I took a bit of time in between the sessions just to buy a couple of the upgrades over at the Great Fairy Fountain in Lake Hylia. That's pretty much the only thing I did off stream, just making sure that we had all of that taken care of. Because there is nothing else I plan to do in between sessions. Yeah, we are pretty much good to handle most of the stuff we should be doing today. I just want to check on a few things over in the desert. Because I know that there is a bit of something that we left the last time we were in this area. So just want to take care of that before we move on to the main event of this session, which is going to be clearing some more Dark World dungeons. Definitely want to take care of that very soon. But yeah, for now, we're back here in the Desert Palace, because there was some stuff we could get in here only if we had the Pegasus boots. And thankfully, we managed to get the Pegasus boots in the last session. So we should easily be able to acquire the last couple of things we need here. Namely, want to ram our boots into that torch, getting us a small key that will allow us to access a certain room in this dungeon. So want to head all the way to the eastern section of this desert palace. Yeah, I'm very thankful with the amount of progress we made last time, managing to clear all of the Light World dungeons pretty much. It's also very good because it took me a long time in my Twitch sessions of this for us to get some of the goodies that we needed for this area, so definitely very thankful. Alright, we managed to get some bombs from that chest. Going forward, expect to see a lot of rupees, bombs, and arrows from chests. And that we get the dungeon map. So that should be all the items cleared from this area. Yep, there wasn't anything really major we needed to grab here. I just wanted to fully clear out this area to make sure we weren't missing anything. Because with our current inventory stock, there are still a few gaps in our inventory that are going to be necessary for us to finish up this game. Namely, with some of the dungeons we still have to do, we're not going to be able to access a few of them until later on. So we check our map here. Well, we can't really see it on this end a little bit. But there's an area that we can get to in the Dark World from the desert, but we aren't able to reach it until we get another item. So we're not going to be able to access the desert equivalent in the Dark World. And for some of the other stuff that we have to worry about... trying to think. There's a thing over here that we'll be able to grab eventually. But again, it's going to require an item that we don't currently have. So it's going to take a little while for us to get all of this stuff. But trust me, it's going to be very well worth it once we manage to grab a couple more stuff in our inventory. So I forgot to mention it, but after you successfully defeat Ganon over in Hyrule Castle, that caused a bit of the enemies in the overworld to change slightly. So you'll be seeing a lot of areas having a lot more difficult enemies. So you'll be seeing a lot more of the Red Knights around compared to the normal ones. There's still something in the Forest Grove that we'll need to come back for once we get another item. Sadly, we don't have that yet. But... ooh, there's a bee. Sadly, we're not going to put you into a bottle. We're not going to do a B% run, as Chugga Conroy called it back when he played this game on the Runaway Guys channel. Yep, just want to come back here into the library so we can grab those rupees that were up there. So that is normally a piece of heart, and you're only able to obtain that once you have the Pegasus boots. There's something else we could be able to get in Kakariko, but don't have an item to be able to get that, so we're not going to worry about that. Also, now that we have dealt with a lot of things here in Kakariko, a lot of the NPCs that would normally be around town have also left the outside of Kakariko, and now there's going to be a ton of knights patrolling this area. So yeah, it really shows how much things have changed since we first took on the Wizard. Things in Hyrule are definitely not being as safe as they used to be. Also want to come back and talk to you. So now that we have a bottle, we should be able to get bombs. Okay, that's perfectly fine. Normally this kid will give you his butterfly net, which he used to catch fairies and bees. But we don't need to worry about that since we already have the net. There's also something we're going to want to come back for here once we get another item. So kind of seeing what I'm going with, there's still a bunch of stuff that we cannot access with our current equipment. And depending on how things go, it could be a while before we're able to get the things we need. I'm still perfectly fine doing what we can here. Also, a neat little thing, if you have the Pegasus boots, you can ram into certain trees, and they will usually drop some goodies for you. So, for instance, we were able to drop some apples down from that tree, which is quite good for us. Also, I like the little detail this area has fake swords scattered all throughout this area. That's kind of in order to trick people who are coming here looking for the Master Sword. It's a sort of little test for anyone trying to claim the Blade of Evil's Bane. But anyway, now that we have all the pendants, we are able to access the pedestal. This is normally where you would get the level 2 sword. However, this place instead had a heart container for us, granting us some more health. Yeah, we're definitely going to want as much health as we need before the end of this run. And considering the areas we still have to explore, yeah, but it's going to be a little while before we are fully going to have everything we need here. Okay, now that we've taken care of that... thinking about some of the other stuff that we need to do. So now that we have managed to deal with some of the things around here. So I know we ran around here and got something. Yeah, because I believe if we went down here... yeah, if I remember correctly, this is where we found the hammer, which was really good for unlocking a lot of stuff for us. Have you seen Andy? Is that looking for a prize Ether medallion? I already got the Ether medallion, good sir. And they'll definitely be useful for us later for a couple of reasons. So yeah, for current progress, there's a few dungeons we should be able to complete, but there's also some very noticeable gaps. So we'll need to work on gathering all the stuff we need for filling up our inventory. Like, there's definitely some stuff we should be able to do on Death Mountain now. That'll be good to do. So, remember this tree that A Bumpkin and B Bumpkin were sawing over here? Well, after you beat Ganon, they finish sawing. And then you can ram into the tree with a Pegasus boots to open it up, which grants you access to this little area. So we got a fairy fountain, which you use to replenish your resources. Thankfully, I already have a fairy, so we don't need to worry about that. But over here, normally there would be a piece of heart, but here we got the level 4 sword, also known as the Golden Sword. With this, our damage output is now maxed out. We are as powerful as we're going to be for the rest of this run. Honestly, yeah, that is just such a good boon for us. Strangely, the lumberjacks aren't present in their home after they're done working here. So, what could have happened to them? Ow. Screw you, man. So there's another entrance to the Lost Woods you can get to over here. Though I don't think there's going to be anything necessary in this area. There could be a few things you can speed. Yeah. So that is a chance game you can use to try and get rupees. However, we do not need that here. From what I remember, there shouldn't be anything in this part of the forest. Yeah. So that was this area that we had previously been to. That guy's just gonna bump into us and take some of our shit. Not that it matters. Alright, now that we have the green pendant, there should be another item that we can grab from Sahasrara, since he specifically said that he would give us something if we have the pendant. But there's a few other things we can get now that we have the Pegasus boots around the church area. So it's definitely worth it to explore around the church. Also, now that we have pulled the Master Sword from its pedestal, I want to say that this is the point... Oh, hey guys, what's up? So despite the fact that we saw Zelda get zapped away by Ganon, she is still here in the church. I guess that event just doesn't affect anything here. Yeah, we want to head into the graveyard, as there's a couple of things that we can do here now. Namely, now that we have both the Titan's mitts and the Pegasus boots, we can now ram into that tombstone, opening up a path in here. This should give us an item. So that is a piece of heart. So now we have 15 hearts. So we are already 3/4 of the way to having our maxed out life, which is really good. Definitely good indeed. So I'm thinking about some of the other things that we need to worry about. Yeah, there's definitely going to be some stuff around Death Mountain we'll need to check. But for the most part, this session is going to be spent in the Dark World. Oh, that's a lot of bees! Oh, the bee-manatee! We're just going to leave. Just going to leave those guys to their honey business. Alright, Sahasrara should be just over here, and then we can get started on some of the Dark World stuff I want to do. Because I forget if we talked to him after getting the green pendant in the last session. Which, the last session we had to clear Skullwoods in order to get the green pendant, and I remember that being the last thing we needed to do. Oh, that is nice! So, he gave us the boost to our magic, so now using our magic items will cost half the usual magic that they would take. That is very well worth it. Normally you would get that from another NPC that we don't have access to yet until we get magic powder, but yeah, that is a very good boon for us. And I'm trying to think of some other stuff. So I believe there should be something we could grab over here, perhaps? Just trying to remember the process of events here, because there's a lot that we're going to need to do. So there's a portal to the Dark World here. And in here is fairies. Alright, that's good. Alright, so I believe it is time that we go take on a dungeon in the Dark World. With our current equipment and the fact that we just got the boost to our magic power, I think we are going to be very well equipped for this next area. So, let's go ahead and take this on. It's usually one of the more tricky dungeons in the Dark World to do, but at this point, we have a lot of resources, so we should be more than prepared for what's to come here. Especially with our current stock of... So I want to go into inventory and show off with our potions. So I managed to fill one of the bottles we got with a green potion, as I feel like that will be pretty helpful in this area, as magic is going to be really important here. Yep, what I want to do is head into the water, because we're going to the island in the middle of Lake Hylia, which is normally where you would go in order to get your upgrades from the Great Fairy. And might as well spend one of our... We'll spend our rupees on one of the upgrades here, since we are all done with the arrow upgrades. So we're gonna go ahead and buy some bomb space. Alright, so now what I want to do is by lifting up that rock that exposes a magic portal here, we want to take this to go into the Dark World. It's a very secluded section of the map that you're only able to access from this portal. And by taking that portal, that leads to the entrance of a new dungeon. This is the Ice Palace. And as the name implies, this area is all about the cold. In order to get through this first area, you need to have the Fire Rod. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to deal with these icy enemies here. Yeah, this area is entirely going to be based around ice, as you can no doubt tell. So there's going to be these slippery floors here that will make it very difficult for you to traverse. This area is also a very large dungeon. So the main gimmick of this area is that it is very deep. There are tons of floors to this place that we need to go through. And taking the various paths around here are going to take a bit of work. Now, this room has some of my favorite enemies in the entire game. These are Pengators. And thankfully, since we have our golden sword, we're just able to kill these guys in one hit. Very good. So yeah, the Pengators are definitely one of the more tricky enemies to deal with here. They'll slide around on their bellies, much like actual penguins, and they will just try to nip at you. We should be perfectly fine for dealing with these guys. They're going to be not too much trouble for us. But yeah, this is going to be a bit tricky, especially since we don't have an item for dealing with the anti-fairies, and they also drain magic, so it's going to make things a bit difficult for us. So over here we can see a chest over there. So I believe normally that's the chest where you would get the big key. But that's obviously going to be in a random spot now. So the best we can hope for is just to explore this area. This dungeon is also fairly important for one of the items you can get here. It's definitely a good item as it will boost your defense if you're playing the main version of A Link to the Past. However, in this version, we are not going to be able to do so. Alright, now this part's a bit tricky. We need to use our bombs here. First to trigger that switch, and then that gives us access to this cracked floor over here. there's definitely going to be a lot of interesting puzzles here involving those crystals. And then this room also has a threat for us to deal with. Some caches fire-locked in Misery Mire. So that gives a clue about something we'll see later. Anyway, this room has a more elusive enemy. These are Stalfos Knights. They'll drop down from the ceiling, and in order to kill them, you need to attack them with your sword in order to stun them, and then while they're falling apart, you blast them with bombs. So that is going to be your main method of dealing with those guys. Alright, we grabbed a key there, and we should be good to move on to the next area. Want to make sure we hit the proper switch here. Yeah, we need to move this over this way. So we also got this moving floor, kind of like what we saw when we fought Mothula. Yeah, this area has some really tricky obstacles for us to deal with. But we should be good. Just want to hit that so we can get on over here. That fire bar can also be a bit annoying. This dungeon in general tends to be a bit on the tricky side, just because it's a big area and there's a lot of enemies and traps that can give you trouble. But shouldn't be too much trouble for us, given our current equipment. Like, we're easily able to handle most of the enemies in here now that we have our upgraded sword. God, I'm so happy we're able to... Whoop! So that is a very big blade trap. Gonna want to just avoid that guy entirely and try to make our way around here. Now I know for a fact that there are some things in the upper area that we want to get to. So I want to head over here. We can hit that switch to make that chest appear. And looks like there is a spot of the wall we can break. Or not. That's a shame. The later games give you a technique you can do to test if a wall is breakable. So what you need to do is you're able to hit a wall with your sword, and then that will cause a different noise to happen depending on whether the wall is breakable or not. Pretty good to remember. Anyway, we got these Stalfos that we need to deal with here. And there's the boss key. Very good. Except this area is very much a maze. We have a lot of different areas to go through if we're gonna grab everything we can here. So I definitely know we're gonna need to get to adore one of the higher levels. So might need to kill these guys to open the path on this floor. So I'm trying to remember the process of events here. At the very least, we have the big key now, so we should be able to grab everything we need. Oh, that didn't open. Oh yeah, what you want to do is pull the tongue on that statue, and that opens the path forward. Yep, kind of interesting. They are adding all of these different methods of getting all these different treasures. It's very nice. Oh! So that is definitely something that you want to grab. So that was the silver arrows. Normally that's an item you don't get until much later on. So this thing is easily one of the most important items you need to grab in this game. So the silver arrows, they do a ton of damage and are able to pretty much knock out any enemy in one hit. Barring a few exceptions from what I know. And yeah, that's just a tremendously useful item for us. Alright, I want to explore a little bit more of this area before we go onward. Just going to check everything we can here. Alright, I'm going to move you over there. And then in here, so I think this is going to be a room where the floor is going to break. Except this area is all about the big areas. A Bottles in Kakariko Tavern. I think I already grabbed that one, so we don't need to worry about that. Yeah, there's just going to be a lot of tricky areas we need to get through in here. Let's take care of these Bari. Another nice little thing about the hook shot is that when you extend it, you temporarily don't have to worry about taking damage from enemies, so that's pretty nice. Yep, look at our current map here. Yeah, I would have liked to get here from another spot, but we should be fine. This is going to be a bit tricky to deal with. So it looks like we have some stairs up here we can take. That leads us back here. Alright, and I know for a fact that that area is going to lead us back down to the lower floor. So let's head over this way and see what we can do. So don't believe this block is useful for anything. There are a few things you do need to remember to hit, but for the most part we should be fine. Something that's a bit tricky in this area just because of the way the ice floor works. Sometimes it can be tricky to get to the... Sometimes it just makes things tricky in order to get past the stuff here. But we're able to handle those guys, and that gets us the map. Very nice. Alright, we haven't fully explored this floor yet, so before we head to a lower level, let's try to go over this way. Again, a good portion of this dungeon is just figuring out where you need to go in order to get all the different stuff. Definitely one of the more complicated dungeons we have to go through here. Alright, I was thinking maybe that there was something with that guy, but doesn't look like it. Alright, so look at our map here. Alright, so to get over there, we need to take one of the... So we're going to need to take this path up here and fall down the floor. Alright, heading down. Luckily, we got plenty of healing options. We don't need to worry too much about taking hits here. Yeah, we do need to be careful of all these traps. Also forgot to mention, but this big round thing there is a bumper. If you hit it, it will simply bounce you away. So definitely be cautious around bumpers. So we're able to hit this switch over here, and that should open the door there. Which I believe this is just leads into that one room. Yeah. So definitely want to drop down that pit in a little bit. But for now, let's head down here with our key. This should give us some more enemies to deal with. Just want to make sure that we clear out most of the enemies around here, because you never know when you're on a floor that requires beating all the enemies in order to get a chest to spawn. And we're going to need to open as many chests as we can to complete this adventure. Alright, that should do it with that. So we can open up that chest, getting us some rupees. So I think we explored everything we can do on that floor. So this area here is pretty deep into this area now. Alright, we can easily circumvent this thanks to our hook shot. Very nice. Very easy way of getting past that. Now, this room. Got ourselves these shadow guys that are going to come out of the walls. And we got an anti-fairy to deal with. So this is going to be a bit tricky. So grab the key. But where else are we going to get something? Alright, so that opens the door there. Good. And I was worried somebody would come out of the ice walls, but it looks like that's not the case. Alright, so let's get moving. Oh, this room. So this room is pretty infamous in the original version of this game. So in order to progress, one of the things you have to do is you needed to open one of the paths here in order to be able to push a block down onto the lower floor. Now, this can be easily circumvented if you go to a certain... Alright, so I see what we need to do here for this. So in order to get to the big chest, we're going to need to go to an upper floor and then drop down from a certain point. Which I think is going to require using a bomb to do that. And since I know this path is going to lead up here, so yeah, most likely we are going to need to do a bit of backtracking if we're going to get this item. So don't believe there's anything we need to worry about in this room. We can take these stairs, which leads us down here. Alright, we don't need to go there yet, because I want to see what's in the big chest. You know me, I like big chests. That's definitely apparent if you have seen my DeviantArt account. Alright, we need to grab the switch, I believe is over here. Yeah. Can we please get for this area without taking hits? Yeah. It's a pain that we have to deal with anti-fairies like this, since we're not in a position where we'll be able to get the means of being able to easily take care of them for a little while. So we would like to get the item that's able to take care of them, because that also can turn anti-fairies into regular fairies, which is really helpful, especially if you're really late into a dungeon. Alright, now this part I recall. Gonna want to get to this room from one of the upper floors, if I remember. So we can't go that way in order to get in. So I don't believe there's a way we can get across with our hook shot. So yeah, it's been a while for this since I've been to this area, so obviously I'm a little rusty. Ow! Don't zap me, Bari. Just get out of here. Okay, now we're back up here. We should be able to get to the room we need. Oh, I should have grabbed that heart. So what we need to do is go over this way. Then we need to head down these stairs, and then I believe we need to bomb the floor in a certain spot, and we should be good. Yeah, this area can be a bit tricky to fully navigate, but we should be fine here. Alright, we got more of these ice guys we gotta deal with, so let's just blast you with fire. Then we just gotta bomb the floor here. And that will open up the path to the big chest. And that contains 50 rupees. Alright, that's fine. We can purchase some more bomb upgrades with that. It's not anything that's gonna help us get to this next area. But yeah, like I was saying before, this section can be tricky if you don't know the trick to it. God, I should have grabbed that fairy. So we need to carefully maneuver past that. And then this is the room I was talking about. So we need to weigh down that switch with an item. And in order to get that, you need a few things. So normally you would need to push a block down from the upper level to be able to get that switch taken care of. However, thanks to our very thorough exploration of these lands, we managed to obtain the Cane of Samaria, which is usually an item that you would need to go to a later dungeon to be able to get. However, there is a little bit of sequence breaking you can do in this game, where you can actually completely skip the Ice Palace, since there isn't any required items for progression here. And then you can go and do Misery Mire, which is the dungeon where the Cane of Samaria is. And that will just quickly give you an easy way in order to get the... Just gives you an easy shortcut through this area. So that was definitely very helpful to us. Also, I completely forgot to mention this, since we just picked up this item, but Yeah, I forgot to mention that the silver arrows are going to be necessary for beating the final boss. That was what I was going to say about that. It is necessary to beat the game. Alright, so now that we managed to make it all the way to the bottom of this area, and I'm pretty sure we've been thorough at getting everything we need in this area. So, let us jump down the pit and face the boss. So this fellow here is Cold Stare. In order to beat this guy, we first need to break it out of its icy prison, which requires using the Fire Rod. Make sure you have plenty of magic at this point. So once you manage to dispel with the shield, Cold Stare will break apart into 3 segments. Simply blast the guy with your Fire Rod or your sword, and you should be good. And that guy had the compass. Okay. So with that, managed to take care of another dungeon and another boss, nabbing us another crystal that we need to fully complete this adventure. Yay! Alright, so with that said, in order to get out of this area, we are going to have to save and quit. So, yeah, that's going to be it for that section of the game. Yeah, we didn't get too much that was important in the Ice Palace besides the silver arrows, which, like I said, is required if we're going to actually beat this game. So, we actually made some pretty good progress there. But yeah, I can't wait to show off just how amazing the silver arrows are. They were actually one of the earliest items I got when I first played this game over on Twitch. And it was very funny because I got them way before I got the bow. But yeah, this thing will pretty much instant kill most of the enemies we're going to come across in this adventure, which makes them oh so helpful for dealing with a ton of stuff. But yeah, now that we've taken care of that, I want to quickly head back into the Dark World from this end, as there's going to be some stuff we're going to need to do here in order to clear some things up. So you can see from the remaining dungeons we need to do, we got one here in the swamp, then we have one on Death Mountain, and one in that very secluded area where the desert was in the Light World. Yeah, of these options, I think we're going to have to go to the one on top of Death Mountain. But before we do that, I felt like it would be a good idea to do some exploring around the Lake Hylia area in order to see what we can grab, because we've obviously missed quite a few things around here, as you can tell by that cracked wall here. So yeah, we're definitely going to be checking around for whatever we can. Got bombs by talking to this thief. So it's nice that he was able to get us something. Ow. And in here, ooh, that's a lot of chests. So there could be something good in here that can give us some more progress. Got green rupee, red rupees, some more bombs, and 300 rupees. So yeah, this guy was holding out on us. So much good stuff we grabbed there. Alright, very good. However, we're going to need to make some more progress if we're going to be able to fully get everything we need here. So yeah, for the record, before we progress any further, I do want to show that one of the next dungeons we can do is right here. Sadly, we are not going to be able to fully explore this area until we have another item, because we need to be able to quickly do different things in both the light and the dark world if we're going to fully explore this area. So you can see how there's no quick path to this area. Yeah, we're going to need to do something in the light world in order to open up the path here. A heart containers in Turtle Rock. Alright, so that gives a hint for something we can get if we go to Turtle Rock, which is most likely going to be the next dungeon we take care of. Which is going to be funny, because Turtle Rock is actually the last dungeon you're usually supposed to do in the main story. But that's perfectly fine with us. We are more than equipped for dealing with some stuff around there. I would naturally like to have some more hearts before we go do that, but yeah, that depends on what we're able to come across here in the Dark World. Now, sadly, we're not going to be able to grab anything on that end. But if we go to the... Actually, I think we can drop down from here. That gives us a quick and easy path over this way. So, obviously, this area has a lot of tricky things for us to deal with. Also want to remember this island for later, because that will be important. Although, not really, considering that... From what I saw, it's only going to give us rupees if we go over there. Yeah, this area has a lot of tricky enemies to deal with. Those mushroom guys that are dropping bombs on us. Yeah, those guys are nasty. You definitely want to watch out for them. Alright, need to figure out a way to get to the section up here. Alright, that's very good. So I remember those mushroom guys. I recall using them quite a bit when I was playing Echoes of Wisdom. It's because they're able to drop bombs on enemies. It makes them pretty darn useful for being able to take care of a lot of threats, which I thought was quite nice. So over here in the light world is an area that had quite a bit for us to see. If we go over here, there's a hand. 20 rupees, I'll tell you something. How about it? We're swimming in dough at this point. We can listen. There's a thief in the desert. He can open creepy chests that follow you. But now that we have that out of the way, do you like my hair? I've spent eons getting it this way. And he healed us. Thanks for that. But yeah, that gives us some hints about something we'll be able to do in a bit. But we're going to need to wait a little bit longer before we can do that. So we can check down here. I'm just going to need our hook shot to get across here. This will tell us the magic cape is in Turtle Rock. Ooh, that's actually some really good advice for us. So the magic cape is an item that renders you completely invisible, which also makes it so that you don't take damage temporarily. It does cost magic to use, so there is that drawback, but yeah, that's just a very good item. If we can grab that, that'll make getting through some of the puzzles later on significantly easier for us. So that should be most of the stuff we should be able to do around the Dark Lake Hylia area. Yeah, we handle most of the things around the Ice Palace pretty handily. So at this point, I think it is time for us to brave the north and try to get into Death Mountain. So that is going to be a bit of a trek for us. Well, actually, it's not going to be that rough, but yeah, we are going to have to make a bit of a trip over there. Thinking about some of the other stuff we can do here. I believe we handled everything around Skull Woods. Got most of the stuff we can do around the Forest Grove. We need to do 2 dungeons before we can access the thing at the bomb shop that we need. And then there's the stuff at the blacksmith shop we need to take care of later. So yeah, we're definitely making some good progress here. Okay, I think our next stop is going to be going to Turtle Rock, which is definitely going to be interesting. That area has a lot of chests that we can grab, so there's going to be a lot of opportunities for us to get stuff that could be useful to us. But if we're going to go over there, we're going to have to save and quit again so that we can head back into the light world. And then we can just quickly go to the mountain cave, giving us a quick and easy trip back up the mountain. So yep, here on Death Mountain, or Mount Lanayru, as I believe it is called in Echoes of Wisdom. Again, I think it's so interesting how Echoes of Wisdom has so many callbacks to A Link to the Past. Like, so many landmarks in that game are based on areas here in A Link to the Past. Just like several hundred years later. It's like a lot of the dungeons you would have been able to go through in this game are now completely inaccessible, or at the very least are more abridged versions of what they used to be. For instance, the Desert Palace is completely inaccessible, but you do pass by the ruins of the Desert Palace on your way to the Gerudo village. Alright, so what I want to do here is want to take this portal, because I want to access some of the things that we can do in the lower section of Death Mountain here. So this area is pretty cut off from the rest of Death Mountain, but there is quite a bit that we can see around here. And a lot of caves that will give us some good opportunities to get some elusive treasures that we wouldn't have gotten previously. Also, I really like the music in this part of Death Mountain. So in general, I really enjoy the music that plays in the Dark World areas. I think the overall Dark World theme is really good, but I especially love the theme that is unique to Skullwoods and Death Mountain, as this theme is just really iconic. I mean, there's a reason that both of these Dark World themes appeared in Super Smash Bros. Brawl in that game's soundtrack. Which again, I feel is worth saying. Man, I love the soundtrack in Super Smash Bros. Brawl. Like, say what you will about that game in terms of its performance and how a lot of the characters feel to play, but its soundtrack is like 10 out of 10 to me. It is phenomenal. Alright, we're able to drop down here. We got some rupees and arrows. Alright, so that seems to be all we could get there. Again, at this point we are mostly going to be receiving rupees, bombs, and arrows from chests. Given that our inventory is very... We have just seen so much from our inventory at this point. Alright, so that takes us all the way back up here. And we can open this pathway or do some stuff. Also, look out for these guys. So these are Lynels. You know those big centaur guys from The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom that are such a pain to deal with? Yeah, those Lynels there are pretty much those exact enemies. Only a little bit not as bad as they used to be. Okay, now this area is a bit interesting. I believe we use our Ether Medallion. That can actually show us where an alternate pathway through this area is, which is quite helpful. Yeah, this area has a ton of chests. So we grab our fourth. Very, very good. We grabbed a piece of heart over there. Yeah, there are a ton of chests in this area, so we'll want to grab as much as we can here. But yeah, with that, we managed to get our fourth bottle, which I am very thankful for. So that is going to be it for the bottles. There is no more that you're able to acquire in this game. But 4 bottles is plenty for being able to do everything we need in this adventure. So I'm definitely thankful for that. Alright, so this part's going to be a bit tricky to navigate. Want to head this way, then that's just going to drop us down there. But now we can head over this way to grab this chest, which contains bombs. Bombs are still a pretty good item for us to grab, I guess. It's not what I really want. Yeah, we can maneuver past this invisible floor here to access this spot now. And this will open up a pathway here. If I remember correctly, this area has a lot of different things that we can grab. Death Mountain in the Dark World, there are so many opportunities to grab items here. So definitely explore this place as much as you can. There is so much good stuff to grab. Let's place another bomb to open up this path. And this should be a fairy fountain. Okay, one of our bottles is empty, so might as well grab one of these gals in order to bring along with us. So it'll give us some added security for later. And trust me, given the way Turtle Rock is, we're gonna need as much health as we can get. So that opens up the path over here. Sadly, we're not able to acquire the item that we could get in the Light World section of this area. But if we drop down there, that just gives us a quick route over there to access. And I believe we jump down here. That brings us back down to this section of the mountain. And I just want to quickly check. Yeah, there's nothing else we can grab over there. Just want to make absolutely sure we explore this place as much as we could. But with that taken care of, oh yeah, there's an item store over here. Given our current stock of items, I'm actually thinking we'll release one of our fairies. Just because I don't believe you're going to be wholly necessary to us. Like I said before, I like having one fairy for security, and then filling the rest of our bottles with potions. So in this case, we now have one of each potion and a fairy, giving us a lot of different ways in order to restore our vitality. It's going to be very useful for us here. But with that taken care of, we need to get back up to where we can reach Turtle Rock. As I know for a fact, this area is going to have a ton of collectibles for us to get. Alright, while we are backtracking and making our way through these caves, there's a couple stuff I wanted to talk about how things have been. So I'm currently on a day off from work, and I've been taking it pretty easy today. Just taking care of a few things that I needed to. Namely, I was doing some drawing earlier for one of our stream projects that I am hoping to get done sometime this year. It's definitely one that I've really been excited for playing, because there's a certain game in the Legend of Zelda series that, over the years, when I've been streaming some other games, I would usually hype up as being one of my favorite games in this series, and yeah, I'm really excited to eventually get around to playing it. It's going to be a good time. As we can see over here... Okay, I forgot. In order to access this area... In order to explore this place, we're going to need to go to the top of this area in the Light World. I forgot that little detail. And sadly, we don't have the item that allows us to quickly warp from the Dark World. So I guess in the meantime, we can explore a little bit of this area before we return to the Light World. Because deal with these Lionels. Need to kill those guys for their parts so I can craft better armor. Yeah, those guys can really do a lot of damage. Oh, look over here. We actually managed to make it to the final dungeon of the game. You need all 7 crystals to enter. So that we'll definitely want to keep in mind. So yeah, this is a section of the Dark World that you wouldn't normally be able to access until later. But at this point, we managed to gather so much that we're able to get over here pretty handily. So this is actually where the Tower of Hera was in the Light World. Which at this point, yeah, pretty much done everything we can do in the Dark World at this point. We did manage to grab a few items, but nothing really major on the way here. So it's time once more to save and quit, so that we can properly get up this area. Heal me, old man. Alright, so what we need to do is we need to get to Turtle Rock from the Light World, as in order to fully access this area, we needed to use the portal that is found on the back of Turtle Rock in the Light World. So I'm really going to show off just how much the Light and Dark Worlds connect here. There are tons of moments like this throughout the adventure, but this is definitely one of the more prevalent ones, where you need to access this area from the Light World in order to unlock the gateway in the Dark World. Alright, now I just need to remember which cave we need to get through. If it's anything like the Dark World, then we just need to take this cave over here, and we should be able to get up in no time. Hello, Missy. So I'll take a bit of healing. But yeah, like I said before, I was working on some art for one of the games that I am eventually going to be playing on this channel. I was planning to play it on Twitch this year, but with the way things have been, I have no plans to continue streaming on Twitch in the foreseeable future. Yeah, ever since they implemented that policy where they said that they would restrict the amount of highlights that people would have on their Twitch channels, yeah, that was the moment where I felt like it was time to drop ship and start moving my operations over to YouTube. And for the most part, I've really enjoyed things here. It's been pretty peaceful, all things considered. And one of the things I really enjoyed being here is that just overall, my streams have been a lot more stable here than they were back on Twitch, so I'm definitely very thankful for that. So I definitely think that operating things here are going to be very good in the foreseeable future. But yep, we opened up the path to Turtle Rock much earlier in the last session. So we just need to take this portal here, and to fully open the way into the dungeon, we need to use one of our medallions. In this case, we need to use the Ether Medallion to open the way here. So normally in the base game, you need the Quake Medallion to open the path here, because, you know, you're shaking the entire dungeon in order to open the path. But nope, Ether Medallion is all you need in this one. I think the game randomizes which medallion you need in order to access this area. But yeah, that's pretty much everything we needed to do to unlock the way here. Some cash in a chest requiring a specialist to unlock. Alright, so that tells us that one of the paths for one of the items we can get. So this gives us a good idea on one of the quests that we don't really need to do in order to finish up the game. But yep, welcome to Turtle Rock. Normally this would be the second to last dungeon you would do in the game. But with the way our current path is, we're going to need to do this place in order to fully complete this adventure. So able to grab a big key just right off the bat from the first chest in this area. And we're definitely going to want to do a bit of exploration around here. So Turtle Rock here is a big dungeon. There are a lot of floors, a lot of twisting pathways, a ton of chests to get through this area. In order to even explore this area, you need a lot of items. Namely, you need the Cane of Samaria, which is obtained in Misery Mire. So yeah, that's why this area is usually one of the last areas that you explore in the game. So for this section, we need to solve a little puzzle involving our trusty Fire Rod. So we want to ride this platform created from the magic of the Cane of Samaria, and we want to light these torches on our way over. And that will quickly open up the path for us here. So want to rush as quickly as you can before the torches go out. And this will give us a path over here. Normally this would be an area that's easy to get through if you have the magic cape. Sadly, we don't have that yet. So we got a key from that chest and another key from that chest. Alright, that's pretty good. Like I said, there are a lot of chests in this dungeon. So we're going to want to be as thorough as we can exploring this place. Also make sure you have plenty of equipment here. And only to fully complete this area and beat the boss, you need the fire and ice rods. So make sure that you grab those before going any further in this dungeon. Also pretty handy to have some potions, especially green and blue potions, as they're really good for replenishing magic. Right, don't appreciate you hitting me there, Bari. Also got plenty of Stalfos over here to give us trouble. I mean, they're not too bad at this point. And we got ourselves another room with floating tiles for us to deal with. So this isn't too bad, just gotta slash at the bastards in order to get through. So while we're just waiting for this room to be cleared, I guess I could talk about some other stuff that I've been up to. So pretty recently, I was in the mood to do some more drawing. Not for any projects I plan on working on, but just something that I wanted to do for me. And I was doing a sketch for a character I came up with a couple of weeks ago, where this character is a sorceress who is like completely made out of cloth and fabric, and how she has magic specifically pertaining to fabric. Like, she's able to turn people into cloth of various kinds, like silk and wool. She has a lot of different powers that can manipulate stuff that are made from those fabrics. It's a pretty interesting concept with this character that I quite enjoy. And definitely very excited to try and do some more art with her, just because I really like her design. Yeah, very excited to show off a bit more of that in the near future. Of course, you can find all of my art over on my DeviantArt account. You can see the link in the bottom corner of the stream here. Now, this area you want to be a little careful in. We've got ourselves some fairly unique enemies to this game. These guys are Chain Chomps. Normally these would be in the Mario series, but here in this game, they're appearing as a bit of a cameo. Alright, we're low on health, so let's go ahead and use our red potion to heal up. That fully replenishes your health, so you should be perfectly fine with that. Now, this section of the mountain is going to have some tricky spots for us to deal with. So we've got plenty of enemies around here, and we're going to see one of the main gimmicks of this area very soon. So, of course, we got these big cactus guys we got to deal with. They behave very similar to Pokies from the Mario series, in that in order to defeat them, you need to destroy all their segments and then destroy their head. So that's something you definitely need to worry about in this area. They're not too bad, it just takes a little while in order to fully defeat them. But yeah, in this section of Turtle Rock, we have a lot of different things to take care of. Alright, can we stop those guys? Alright, so this area, want to be a little careful, since obviously we have those sparkles to take care of. And then we got these floating skulls. Also, in certain sections of this dungeon, you will find these eyes all over the place. If you're in the path of these eyes, then they will shoot lasers at you. So, definitely want to be careful about that in order to avoid getting hit. We can go over here, grab a heart container. Very nice. We'll definitely take the healing. And this path, where is it going to take us? So we grab some magic there. Alright, so that's pretty good. So I think that's everything we can grab in this section of the map. Alright, so want to head back over here, and then we're going to want to take the path that we didn't take the first time we were in that other room. Yeah, this area is just full of different twisting paths that you need to take, so it can be tricky to memorize the paths you need in order to progress. But with persistence, you should be able to get through here pretty well. Alright, now this room is tricky because we got that fire thing. It's going to be spitting out fire at us while we deal with this guy. Alright, that takes care of him. And that opens up 2 different paths for us. I think I want to take this path over here first. Alright, so there's an area we can access with the big key, which thankfully we already have. So we can take that, and I believe that is the path to the end of the dungeon. So we're going to want to save that for a bit later. We can take this route over here. And thinking about the progress we need to make. Alright, so there's the big chest over there. So normally that chest would give you the mirror shield, which is definitely useful for giving you some defense in this area. So gotta be careful of the eyes over here, so make sure you don't get blasted. So over here is an area that actually leads into the exterior of Death Mountain, which is quite nice. We're going to want to remember this area for later if we want to fully complete this adventure. Alright, we grabbed a normal key from that chest. So with that taken care of, we're pretty much good to progress further into this dungeon. For current stock of items, yeah, we should be good. Just a little worried because, yeah, I'm pretty sure the next couple of floors will have the items that I'm thinking of. Just that this area has a lot of stuff that you need to remember. I don't like having to do this now, but we need as much healing as we can get. I wonder if we can silver arrow this guy. Never mind. So we got at least 2 walls that we can bomb here. So that's going to be the path forward, and want to take this path first. So this should give us... I think we need to take care of some of the enemies around here before we can push a block. And come to think of it, I believe this isn't required for progress. So I believe this room is just in order to get us some treasure. Yep, it's just a room of rupees. At this point, we don't need to worry about rupees, so I'm not going to bother gathering those. Nope, instead we're going to focus on just getting through here. So that has the compass. Very good. And by taking this path that leads further down into the belly of Turtle Rock. Alright, so at this point we are getting pretty close to the end here. And I remember this floor being pretty tricky. So to navigate this area, we have all of these different pathways we can take here. And it can be pretty tricky to navigate here in the dark, especially past these fire bars. So in order to fully get through this area, we're going to need to get to a certain section of the map, and then it can take a little bit of trouble in order to get to, just because of the different paths you can take on the floating platform here. Alright, so we need to find a specific route we can take over here. This one can be a bit tricky to reach. I think if we go down here... Yeah, this should lead over to the switch. So we hit that, and that will open up the path forward. Gonna have to take a little bit of a beating on the way out, but it's gonna be worth it. Besides, we have a fairy, so we got plenty of opportunities to heal after this. Let's go ahead and head this way. This takes us to a room full of these eye lasers, and also that. Okay, could I stop falling, and can we just get through this? Alright, we're gonna need another key in order to progress here. And thankfully, we can find a bunch of them over here. Aw, this room. This one is gonna be very tricky given our current equipment. Actually, we have the Cane of Burna, so we can use this to protect ourselves from the eyes here. Now, normally what you're supposed to do is use the mirror shield in order to block the lasers from the eyes, but we don't have the mirror shield, so we're gonna have to rely on the Cane of Burna. Oh, and we got this guy. We should be able to one-shot you with a silver arrow, so let's just wait for you to come over this way, and bam! Very good. So, a little cautious because we are very low on... Oh, there it is! There is the magic cape. We can use that to completely avoid damage from enemies. Going to be very useful to us in this adventure. And if we blast that wall open, this takes us to a very secluded part of Death Mountain here. So I want to remember that for the future. But for now, we just need to make our way back through this area and... Okay, I do not appreciate all these hits we're taking. We still have a fairy, so we should be good. I am really anxious about what's to come. Just because I know what the next boss is going to be, and it is a tough one. If we go over there, that opens up this path. Yeah, we got this anti-fairy we got to deal with. So don't have a whole lot of opportunities to heal here. God, I wish we had another item to protect ourselves here, especially against anti-fairies. This would be really dang helpful. Alright, I think we can use our bombs to trigger these switches here. Alright, that gets us over here. Then we can access that. Ow. Just want to make sure we're able to get ourselves as healed as possible before this next encounter, because it can be a doozy. Alright, we should be able to head down the stairs here. And this, believe it or not, is the end of the road. So make sure we are all healed up. They put that green potion there to make sure you're stocked up on supplies before this point. So it is time. Once we go through here, we'll be facing the boss of Turtle Rock. Alright, for two options, let's go with the Fire Rod first. In here, we face Trinax. This guy is a big turtle. So what you want to do is use your respective rods to hit the different heads in order to stun them. Ow! Okay, we have a fairy, so we should be good. But even still, that is a pain. So this guy will also shoot its neck out to try and chomp you. So yeah, the trick of this fight is to hit the red head with the ice rod, and then hit the blue head with the fire rod in order to damage it. Alright, I'm a little worried here given our current health, but we should be fine. We might need to use the Cane of Burna here in order to provide some extra defense. So Trinax in this phase will just charge at you. It turns into a giant rock snake. But thankfully, we were able to best it. Man, that went a lot better than how things went in my Twitch playthrough. Oh! Trinix was guarding the ocarina! Oh my god. That unlocks so much for us. I am so glad we managed to grab that. Oh man, that opens so much we can do now. I am so happy we were able to grab that. But yeah, Trinix, that thing is really, really tough. Back when I streamed this over on Twitch, I'm pretty sure I died 2 times when I faced Trinix. Mainly because I completely ran out of magic when dealing with this thing. Oh my god, that went so good. But yep, now we got ourselves the ocarina. This thing is going to make traversing the rest of the world and getting the items we need so much better. Alright, so for this guy, we need to head back to the light world. Also, we need to stock up on potions again. So, yeah, we're going to want to just save and quit to get out of here. Alright, guess we can quickly head on over to the witch's hut in order to restock our supplies. Alright, then we can finally show off what we can do with the ocarina. Because like I said, this thing is going to open up so much for us. So the ocarina is normally the item you get as part of the Forest Glade questline, where there is a child who got sent to the Dark World by accident, and he is in the process of being turned permanently into just a permanent resident of the Dark World. And he would give you a shovel in order to dig in the Forest Glade for his ocarina, because he wants to hear the sound of the ocarina one last time before he dies. Oh yeah, it's that kind of game. And then getting the ocarina also opens some more stuff that you're able to do in this world. So yeah, I am very happy we were able to grab that. That is such a good item for us to have. Oh, it's going to open up so much we can do. And that also opens up another dungeon we can take care of. So we will definitely want to do that. I'm just thinking briefly about some of the stuff we need to take care of. Yeah, I think we should be able to get where we need to from here. So what I want to do now that we have the ocarina, we are going to head back to Kakariko Village so that we can get the main thing that we can do with the ocarina. Believe me, when I say this thing unlocks a lot we can do, I mean it. This is easily one of the most important items we need for making progress in this world. It's required in order to access one of the dungeons, and yeah, there's just a lot this thing opens up. Also, this is kind of a secluded part of the map that we haven't gotten to explore at this point. I just didn't come here because there isn't really anything of note that you need in this area. I think you can bump the trees just to get a few things, like maybe a fairy or some apples. But yeah, this area ultimately isn't required to go to on our journey. It's just there. Alright, now that we've gotten our friend, the ocarina, what are we able to do with this thing? Well, I'll tell you what we can do. So we want to head over to this weather vane here, and we'll play our ocarina. And doing that changes the weather vane to a duck. So that unlocks fast travel. We are now able to call the duck with our ocarina and then the duck will fly by, and we can grab onto it, allowing us to warp to various different areas on the map. And one of the areas we're definitely going to need to go to is Area 6 on the map, a secluded part of the desert that we cannot normally reach. Alright, but before we go over there, there's a few other stuff I want to check around town. Namely over at the Milk Bar. Now that we have the Ocarina, I think that might change some dialogue. Alright, normally that is the guy who is drowning in sorrows because he's missing his son. But if you play the Ocarina in front of him, I believe that will cause him to be reminded of his son because it's his Ocarina. Should play that flute for the weather vane, cause reasons. So yeah, there's your hint to play the flute by the weather vane in order to unlock the duck. Now that we've got that taken care of, we're gonna head over this way. Because in this secluded part of the desert that you can only reach with a duck, there is a portal into the Dark World. So this unlocks Misery Mire. This is a big swamp here in the middle of the Dark World. It's a very secluded area that you can only access if you've gotten the Ocarina. Yeah, this area is going to have a ton of stuff for us to do. Namely, there's a dungeon here, but we can also grab a few other things. 20 rupees, I'll tell you something. How about it? Sure, all I can say is that my life's pretty plain. I like watching the puddles gather rain. And all I can do is just pour some tea for two and speak my point of view, but it's not sane. It's not sane. Fascinating. Alright. So now we're taking care of that. We can bomb this wall. And I'm pretty sure this isn't going to give us anything important. Just another area that we can restock on supplies. Yeah, there wasn't much to this area. But trust me, this swamp is going to have so much that we can do. God, so glad we're in this area now. So something we're going to want to remember to take care of later with this area, once we get another item, which, given how the progress of events should be, we should be able to get it in this area. So over here we got ourselves some chests. We can open that one to get a piece of heart. And this one has bombs. Okay, that's not entirely what I needed, but I appreciate the piece of heart. This one is gonna get some more life. Alright, so over here we can see that the symbol here, there is a quake symbol at that point. Normally you need the Ether Medallion to access this area. However, much like how things were at Turtle Rock, it randomized which item we actually need in this area. So watch out for those pterodactyl guys, because they can do a lot. Yeah, we just want to head on over to this area. And let's use our Quake Medallion in order to open the path forward. So that will dispel the rain, which will then open up the path into Misery Mire, specifically the dungeon known as Misery Mire. Yeah, given the amount of time we have currently in this session, I think we should be able to clear up this dungeon before we end things off in this session. This area is going to be quite tricky for us to go through, though. This is probably one of my least favorite areas in the game. Look, my fellow Wizrobes! Kill them! Yeah, this probably is one of my least favorite areas of the game, just because it's really big, it's a very confusing maze with a lot of different pathways you can take, and it can be a little confusing just trying to remember the different routes you need to take in order to get everything in this area. So we want to be very thorough in this place, because we're not going to be able to beat another dungeon until we get everything in this place. So I want to quickly dash around here, and that gives us the big chest. So we're gonna need to come back with a key to access that. Also, there's a chest over there that we need to grab with the key. So I remember when I did this area, the first time that I streamed this, it took me a little while to be able to fully do everything we could in this area. And I'm pretty sure that we needed to leave and come back here at a later time in order to fully complete this area. So yeah, it just really shows this area is very complicated. There are so many different twisting paths to take. And there is a lot of different hazards here. So we're going to be here a while. So take care of those guys. We can push this over to open up this path. So this should lead us to our first chest of the area. Yep, that gets us a small key. So now that gives us the ability to access one of the things that we couldn't get to before. Given the amount of progress we currently have here. We could save that for a little bit and just keep exploring around this area. So I know for a fact that there is something around here. So one of the big hazards of this area, obviously, is the spikes on the ground. If you use the magic cape, you can completely avoid damage from the spikes. So that just gives you a very easy way past that hazard. But yeah, besides that, we got a ton of enemies to deal with here. Also, get used to seeing Beamos in this area, because they are all over the place. They can be quite nasty if you just keep getting hit by these guys. I actually find it really amusing that we cleared Turtle Rock before we're doing Misery Mire here. Because normally you have to do Misery Mire to get the Cane of Samaria before you can even attempt going to Turtle Rock. So yep, our journey here has definitely been an interesting one. So obviously one of the signature hazards you'll be dealing with in this area are Wizrobes. These guys, as you can no doubt tell, are sorcerers. They will teleport in and out of dimensions and then try to blast you with their magic before disappearing again. They're a fairly iconic Zelda enemy, being in the series ever since the first game. And it's been pretty amusing the different varieties of Wizrobe we have seen over the years. Like in Wind Waker, for instance, the Wizrobes have toucan heads, for whatever reason. Just fairly amusing the different designs they give these guys over the years. But I am quite a fan of the stereotypical wizard look from these guys. How they also resemble the Black Mages from the Final Fantasy series. Alright, so definitely going to want to hit that switch before we go further. Because that will open up the path to one of the things that we need to grab. Alright, so obviously we still got a lot of different hazards in this area to deal with. A lot of twisting pathways. Just gonna open up this chest to get into this room. Yeah, expect to see a lot of fire hazards here too. This dungeon just loves to throw fire at you. Very thankful that we got the magic cape, because it's gonna make exploring this area so much more convenient. Given our current progress here, let's try going this way. Alright, so we're gonna need the big key in order to fully explore that room. So we're gonna want to wait a while before going that way. So there might be something if we bomb the walls here. I'm just thinking because of the layout of this area, there might be something hidden in the walls. No. Alright, they're just cracks on the walls for the sake of there being cracks. Whatever. So now that we managed to hit the crystal in that room that is kind of shaped like a fishbone for whatever reason, that opens up a path over here, getting us another chest. So that's very good. Then we'll open up a path over here. We'll go to this one a little bit later, but for now I want to head over this way so that we can access that one other chest that we should have available to us now. So we go this way. No, we want to go this way to the path that's now open thanks to the crystal. Alright, could you move, Mr. Fireball? So now we can go over here and access this chest. And that is the big key! Alright, so now we can grab whatever is in the large chest. And also unlock the rest of this dungeon. So I am very thankful we managed to grab that. So remember the last time I was in this area, it took me a while to get through here, specifically because I entirely forgot that that chest was over in that area. So it took me a little while to be able to fully navigate this place. But now we should be able to easily handle the things here. Alright, we got a small key from that chest. And given our current progress here, so yeah, we're gonna want to head to the eastern section, western section of this dungeon. There's gonna be a lot of areas around there we'll be needing to access. Just want to take the upper path here, and looking at the process of events, let's go this way. We have plenty of keys, so we should be able to navigate this area pretty well. So this area has a bit of an interesting obstacle here. There is this shooter here that will spit fireballs at you, specifically when you use your sword. So that's certainly an interesting puzzle to deal with. Also, we got these slug guys that drop bombs. I said this before in my stream of this game that I did on Twitch, but those slug guys always remind me of these slug enemies from the 4th Commander Keen game. God, that is also a game that I want to play on this channel at some point. God, I just really love the Commander Keen games. They were so fun when I was a kid. And yeah, I'm definitely pretty excited to eventually get around to streaming those in the future. It's because they were such a fun time, and I think we would have a pretty enjoyable time with those games here on the channel. Obviously, they're pretty old games, so they would naturally be very difficult, but I think we could have a decent time going through them. Especially after I get some more practice with playing those games. So yeah, sometime in the future, I would definitely love to stream those for the channel. I was actually thinking of playing those games when I was running things over on Twitch. But with the way things are, we obviously had to cancel those plans. But sometime soon I would love to jump into those games. Now what we need to do in this room, we use our fire rod to light these torches. So we need to light all 4 torches between those 2 rooms in order to unlock the path forward. If I remember correctly, this is the path in the original game that you need to go through in order to unlock the big key, which is obviously necessary to get the cane of Samaria. Thankfully, we don't need to worry about that, because we already have the cane. It's definitely very useful to us. A Piece of Hearts and Palace of Darkness. We were already at the Palace of Darkness, so we don't need to worry about that. But now we can drop through that floor, and that gives us the map. So that's going to be a good way of seeing all the areas we haven't been to yet. Yeah, there are a lot of different pathways here in Misery Mire. So navigating through this area effectively, it can take a little while to get through this area properly. But with enough patience, you should be good. Also, this is one of the later dungeons. You should have plenty of help to navigate this area. So now this takes us back here. And looking at things on the map, there is a room we haven't been to yet over here. So how about we try to get there and see what we can find. Alright, do we need to kill this guy in order to get through here? No. Alright, we'll see what we can grab over here, and then we'll actually make our progress through this dungeon. Alright, so for this room, we either need to light all the torches, which can do, or we have to wait out the stupid tile puzzle again. They do that puzzle so much in this game, it's honestly a little irritating. Alright, so we're gonna need to hit this crystal. Yeah, you need to do the crystal a lot in order to get through this area. I don't appreciate getting hit all the time, game. So we can grab some rupees. Alright, so that should be everything we need to worry about on the first floor of Misery Mire. So now we can proceed to the path out of here. Just want to go over this way. And through the room that requires the big key, we get this room, which brings a teleporter over here. And this gives us the quick way to access this room, which, if you can probably tell, is going to lead us deeper into the dungeon. It's an easy health refill, which is definitely useful for us. Well, that's an easy magic refill. So we are going to need magic for this area, specifically with the Cane of Samaria. As if we explore around here, there should be a bunch of stuff we can do. So we can grab some rupees over here. So I often forget this room even exists. Also got a lot of slime that's falling. So I believe we need to drop that block onto that switch in order to open the way forward. In this room, it's very dark, so it's hard to see all the enemies around here. If we can lift this up, which does nothing for us, actually. Okay. And then through here, we got an area full of these blade traps. So it'd be a good idea to go with the magic cape here, just so we can navigate past the spike traps. Alright, we got another area with a crystal. So probably be a good idea to hit that. For now, let's just see what we can do here. Yeah, we got a bombable wall, so I'll place that bomb there, opening up the path forward. So this gives us a room with some treasure. Go ahead and take all the rupees before we go. So I believe we need to... Yeah, we need to go to the south to be able to do this. Sadly, we're going to take a little bit of a beating here. We should have a fairy, so we should be good. Yeah, we still have a fairy. But actually, we're going to take the red potion now. Just because it's only a red potion, it's not that integral to our journey. Alright, now we need to take this exit. Okay, yeah, I was thinking we would need to hit the switch. Let's go and do that, and then we'll go. Luckily, we have our boomerang to quickly hit that. And then we should be pretty much good here. So we got yet another one of these areas where we need to bomb a wall to access another crystal. Now, don't like when those little shadow bug guys get in there and just mess you up. But with that, we should be just about done here. So we got one more room, this one having a bunch of slime that drops down on us. But we should be just about done here. There is yet another crystal. I'm actually going to hit this one because I have a pretty good idea that that one is going to be required to hit at this point. Yep, we need to hit that one. So now we just quickly maneuver over here, and we should be at the boss. Alright, so that was honestly not that bad of a run for Misery Mire. And now we got ourselves the boss, Vitreous. This guy is a giant slime that is full of eyeballs. Simply whack these guys with your sword in order to take them out. Gotta deal with the small eyes before you can focus on the big eye. Yeah, this guy can be a little bit of a pain because he does a lot of damage. As you would expect, it's one of the later game bosses. And at this point, we should be able to damage you with the silver arrows. Just kills you in 2 hits. Very good. And with that, we managed to take care of Vitreous. And we got ourselves a piece of heart. Okay, I'm a little concerned at this point. Because considering the amount of progress we made in this game, yeah, if we're gonna finish things here, there's still one item that we need to get. And, okay, I have an idea on where it could be, given the fact that we have managed to get 2 of the crystals that is necessary for doing a certain thing. Alright, so with our current inventory, we're not going to be able to complete the next dungeon until we get the magic mirror. And in order to get that, there's only a few different areas where I think we still have to explore. And I've got a pretty good feeling on where it would be. And if it's where I think it is, then oh boy, this game has really been asking us to go all over the place in order to finish it. But yeah, we are going to head back to our house. So we'll be finishing up this session in just a sec. I just want to take care of this last thing just so that I know for a fact that my hypothesis is either correct or wrong. Just gonna have the hammer for this part. And we are going to take the warp over here by the Southern Swamp. So we do this, we can access the Dark World, and we want to head back to the bomb shop that used to be our house. Now, this area is going to be quite interesting. So in order to be able to access the thing for this area, you needed to clear 2 of the dungeons in the Dark World. Specifically, they're the areas that are marked with the red crystals. So I believe you need to clear Ice Palace and Misery Mire if you're playing the original game. 30 bombs of 100 rupees, 100 rupees for 1 big bomb. Good deals all day. We're going to want to grab the big bomb. So this thing is pretty integral for accessing some of the later game upgrades. Specifically, if you want to upgrade the sword and the bow, then this is very necessary for you, if you're playing the main game. Now, the bomb will follow you around for quite a while, and you want to take this guy quite a bit. We want to go all the way to the pyramid that is in the heart of the Dark World. It's the pyramid that replaces Hyrule Castle in the Light World. So we want to be very careful as we make it over here. And we want to take this bomb specifically to a certain wall. This one. So we position the bomb right in front of the wall, and then dash. And then that will set the charge on the bomb. Boom! And that will open up the path to another fairy fountain, giving us 2 potential chests, or we can drop our... Oh, I completely forgot about that. Yeah, you can actually chuck your empty bottles into the fountain in order to get them filled. So I completely forgot about that. Alright, so this area specifically, while you come in here, pretend like you have something this fountain wants, come back with bottles. So in the lore of this game, this is actually the fountain that the Great Fairy of the Golden Land resided. However, after Ganondorf seized the Triforce and turned this land into the Dark World, that resulted in the Great Fairy being transformed. So now she has a more grotesque and large appearance to her. Which, you know, is a fun visual back in the day. Nowadays it kind of comes across as fat-phobic. But that's just the way things are. Anyway, we got 2 chests here. Either one of them could have an item that will allow us to continue this game. Otherwise, we are going to need to be scouring the entirety of Hyrule, trying to figure out where we need to go in order to finish this adventure. So let's just check them and see. We got arrows and the shovel. So the shovel is going to unlock something for us. So the shovel is normally the item that would get replaced by the ocarina. Oh, this is a very interesting route we are taking here. So you can use the shovel to dig in certain areas. And normally if you use it to dig in the ground, you can usually dig up things like rupees, which is quite nice if you want to get some additional stuff. Alright, before that we go take care of what we can do with the shovel, I want to head to the Dark World Forest Glade, as there is something that we can do there now that we have access to the ocarina. Because, you know, we might as well finish up this quest now that we have access to these items. God, I am very intrigued by this route we are progressing here in this game. Because depending on how things go, we could get the item we need in order to unlock the last dungeon that we need to complete. Depending on how things go here, this could mean that we will open up the last section of the game. Depending on how things go here today. But yep, the boy here has now been permanently changed into a tree. We weren't able to bring his flute back in time, so now he's just permanently a tree. Okay, so now we gotta save and quit to return back to the light world. God, if this is the route that I think it is for getting this item, I am gonna be so intrigued. And also amazed if this is indeed the item I think we're gonna get here. Yeah, what we need to do, now that we have the shovel, we want to go to the Forest Glade in the Light World. So when you first talk to the Goblin Boy in the Dark World Forest Glade, he will give you his shovel to use in order to dig for his flute, which is hidden in the Light World version of the Forest Glade. Simply dig around the flowers, 300 rupees. God. At this point, I have no idea where we need to go at this point. Because in order to finish this adventure, we need to get the mirror in order to access the last dungeon we need to complete this game. I have no idea where this mirror could be hiding. So I think at this point, the best thing I can do is, in between sessions, I will try to scour Hyrule as much as I can to find this item. Because at this point, I really do not know where it could be. Actually, there is one idea I have for where it could be. So we are going to take our duck up to Death Mountain. Because I highly suspect that this thing might be in an area we can only access in the Dark World section of Death Mountain. In an area that is pretty elusive, that you normally would not be able to access. So I am very curious if this hypothesis is going to be correct. We have been traveling all throughout this land to try to get all these items we need. And there is specifically one item we need in order to finish this adventure, because it's required to access the Swamp Palace. I really have no idea if this is going to be where we need to do it. But if we open up this portal here, is takes us to a very elusive section of the Dark World. So look around here, there isn't much we're able to see here. If we go down here, there's a couple different pathways we can see around here. Specifically, I think we need to try and jump down to that ledge. Man, if this actually has the item that I'm thinking we're gonna get, then this just might save the run. I'm willing to spend just a few extra minutes on this session if it means finding this one item that we need. And then we can spend the next session finishing up the game. So we jump down here. This takes us to the room where normally you would acquire the Cane of Burna. So we use our magic cape here in order to walk all the way over here past these spikes. And at the very end of this path, it's a block we need to lift. And in this chest, there it is! The magic mirror! The fact that this thing took us this long to be able to get. So that's the item that allows you to return to the light world from any point in the dark world. This just saved the run. We now have everything we need in order to go into the final dungeon, which is the Swamp Palace, oddly enough. And then we can gain access to the final dungeon, and then we can finally wrap up this adventure. Oh my god, I am so happy that we finally managed to get this thing, and that my instincts were correct in that it was here. Oh man, I am so happy we got this item. But yeah, with that said, I think this is a good enough point as any for us to end this session. So this has been a wild ride of a stream. I have been very happy with the amount of progress we have made here. Managed to clear the Ice Palace, Turtle Rock, and Misery Mire, and we got the last items we need in order to finish the game. This has been a really wild ride, but I am very excited for us to finally get into so close to the end here. So with that said, next time on The Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past Randomizer, we will be heading to the Swamp Palace, and then we should be all set to finish this adventure. Until next time, have a good day, and take care.